Mike Shea, Transworld Business Advisors. I'm going to tell you a quick story. It was 2 or 3 years ago. I got a phone call. It was June, July, normal hot, muggy day in Florida. We were in Orlando at the time, and a guy's name shows up on my phone. It was someone who I had met several times. He had bought several pool companies, but never bought from me. He was a Canadian gentleman. He had spent probably an hour and a half with me the first time he came, asking about everything he needed to know about pool companies. I'd hooked him up with a CPA. He'd hired my CPA, but he'd gone out in very much a market like we're experiencing now, where there's very little inventory, and he'd done an off-market deal on his own. That deal had gone south to some degree. He called me for some advice. He got through it, and he and his wife did a really good job of scaling that company. By the time I got this phone call, they had 14 trucks on the road. So they were one of the bigger pool companies in Orlando. So the name popped up, and I answered the phone, and I said, hey, for sake of privacy, I'm going to change the name. I said, hey, John, how are you? And it was his wife. And again, for sake of confidentiality, I'm going to change the name. It was Sarah, John and Sarah. And she was bawling. She was crying. And I tried to calm her down. I said, hey, what's going on? And she blurted out that John had died, which was shocking. John was 10 years younger than me, young guy, no children. But long story short, they were dispatching their employees. They were running the business from their home. They had a nice property in a really affluent part of town, kind of their dream property. And he started to feel pain in his chest. He went inside to get some out of the hot sun, to get some cool air, and had a heart attack right in front of Sarah. So I asked her where she was, and she was at the hospital. He had just passed, which I was floored. I'm like, well, why are you calling me? And she said, well, John had always told me to call you if anything had happened to him. Now, mind you, they were not customers of mine. They were just people that I'd met. I had tried to give them the best advice, and she was panicking. So, I said, okay, let's meet. And next morning I'm there. She's by herself because she's from another country, and the employees are there, and the employees stood up and they did their jobs, and they were great. I was just a resource. I was the only person they knew in the country, in large effect. Family came shortly thereafter, and all that got addressed. But my first concern at that was stabilizing her and stabilizing the business, and making sure that this entity would support her. They had done a great job in getting their staff and lots of processes and documentations. They had built a great company, and their people were well paid. So the business was largely going on, but she was panic mode. She ran the back office, not operational. So she started to feel like she couldn't do things. So a lot of it was just, hey, you can do this. You can do this. We have help. We can get you through this. Your CPA was someone we knew. Your processes are good. I'm a resource. We'll help you get through this. But she stood up on her own, and really, after about a week of dealing with her husband dying right in front of her, took the bull by the horns and nailed this thing down. I mean, just a rock. But she wanted it sold, and after about a month had gone by, and she was stabilized, and she was in enough of a mental position for me to kind of talk to her about what she was going through. I said, Sarah, why'd you call me? And she said, well, you were always honest with us, and John trusted you, and he knew that you would not take advantage of this situation, and that you would make sure I got the most for the money, because he wanted his family taken care of. And that's kind of the point. On 3 occasions, I've had business owners pass, people I'd known, people I'd worked with, pass, and then have me handle the exit of the sale to take care of their family. My ability to do that is largely predicated by the work you do before I'm engaged. Are you organized? Do you have clean books and records? Do you have a good CPA? Are you thinking long term? Have you built a transferable business? Have you de-risked the business? And all those things and more are required to do what's your responsibility. Whether you're a man or a woman, whoever you are in the relationship, if you are one of the principals, it is your duty to your family to make sure this mechanism by which you've invested your family's wealth is able to be transferred to someone, either to the family or to someone else to give you a liquidity event that takes care of the family. To do otherwise is shameful and irresponsible. We sold that company at a premium. She was a tough negotiator. She deserved every penny that she got. She went the distance and then got to take that money and go do other things and enjoy her life, and reminisce on the person who was the love of her life. But that is the exception, not the norm. The amount of times that I encounter businesses that are unsellable, where for hubris or arrogance or just bullhead, pighead, I'm smarter than you, thick-necked dumbassery, that people aren't able to transfer assets to their family is monumental, and it shakes me. There's really no excuse now. Instead of watching Netflix or watching clips of, I don't know, Molly Maguire or freaking Friends on your phone, it takes 2 seconds to ask the computer questions. And then it's all about you executing and doing what needs to be done. In several years, and I think the next generation, they won't need people like me, or maybe they will. But how to do things and what to do is now going to be documented. And then it's just going to be your ability to execute. And your ability to know whether you can execute. And your ability to know whether you need somebody to hold you to account to execute. The moral of this story is prior planning is absolutely essential. Because if you do not plan, the mess you leave people like me, and the hopes that we can fix it is minimal. Because we don't have control. You're not going to sign over power of attorney to me and give me absolute control to do it. Nor would I want that, because, frankly, that's an enormous amount of risk. And, it's just messy. I don't want to get into that muck. It's not worth it to me. So I would much rather we have a relationship 2, 3, 4, 5 years in advance. And God help us, the issue never pops up. Let's hope you never need me for those scenarios. But they do happen. They do happen. So, as always, you can reach me at 321-287-0349, or you can email me at mike@tworld.com.